second poetry night. We have three much-loved poets and writers in the room with us tonight. We have Tuan, Danielle Colin, and Joseph Bruchac. They're all going to come up here and share their work with you tonight. We are going to start off with Tuan. He is a Cambodian-American writer, critic, professor, and most importantly, a father. He's the author of Gruel, and So I Was Blessed, and most recently, The Doctor Will Fix It, which is a book of poems about raising his daughter. Nominated for the Pushcart numerous times, his poetry recently won the 2019 Nasiona Nonfiction Poetry Prize. He is an associate professor of English and Asian Studies at Union College in Schenectady. And before I bring him up here, I just want to let you know, if you want to let us know you're here, you can make a comment in the chat. It's nice to go back afterwards and see that it's there. It's nice for you to let each other know that you're there. If you're not comfortable with it, that's fine, but it's very much appreciated if you want to say hi. If you want to share a poem there, the best thing to do is share a haiku. So let's give a very warm welcome to Tuan. Yay!
Well, thanks, everybody. It's really an honor to be reading with Joe and Danielle at this historic Caffe Lena. And thanks, Carol, for organizing this and keeping the local poetry scene alive. Also, thanks to my wife. We have two kids. The youngest is 8 weeks old. I wouldn't be able to do this if she weren't at home taking care of the two kids. So with that, I want to start the reading with this poem as a kind of thank you for her. Poetry doesn't sell. It doesn't put food on the table. It doesn't pay for your auto and life insurance, your medical bills and mortgage expenses. It doesn't send your children to college or set up your retirement fund. It doesn't help a friend dying of cancer. It doesn't fix a leaking roof, help buy a brand new car. It doesn't even mean what it says half the time. Poetry is your daughter looking up, saying, "Daddy," for the first time. It is after apple picking one afternoon in a tiny studio near the university. You and your girlfriend were making sandwiches, and you touched her hand. She turned around, rested her head on your chest. You breathe in her autumn hair. She smells so sweet, tender, and warm. It wasn't the Macy's perfume you bought her last Christmas. It was her. Right then, you knew she would be the mother of your daughter. So this book, The Doctor Will Fix It, is, as Carol said, is about raising my daughter, a biracial girl, in an age of Trump and Me Too and anti-immigration sentiments. And this is a picture of her. As you can see, she's already practicing safe distancing and wearing a mask there. So I'll start with Moon and Khmer. The book is really, I think, is a kind of process of what it means to be a father for someone like me who is a child survivor of the Cambodian genocide, and having a child is a wonderful way to get back at what the Khmer did to our people. Okay, Moon and Khmer. You are light when the sun is punched out and darkness reigns. You are the antidote to what came before. Black blood, black heart, hands tied, kneeling before a ditch of human bones. Your laughter pierces the silence of night that bore witness to the once blood-soaked land. Your existence is resistant to the genocide that orphaned your father and drove his family out of the homeland. You are love against the hate of the Khmer Rouge. This is the meaning of your name, Janda. This is how to defeat Pol Pot. Sometime your love for your daughter, there's an element of violence in terms of protection. So here's one for that. Janda came home and told us that a girl from school had taken away her toys and hit her. I watched my wife hold our little girl close to her chest. The only fight I was ever in, a 6th grade girl pushed me to the ground after I told the class I had a crush on her. I spent over a decade earning advanced degrees, reading books and gleaning the wisdom of the ages, moderation from ancient Greece, turning the other cheek from Jesus, and showing compassion for all life from the Buddha. But all I could feel that afternoon was rage. I got down on my knees and, to my wife's horror, showed Janda how to beat the crap out of another 3-year-old girl. Thank you, Joe. The kind of father, after my friend Tony Cloakland's The Kind of Man. I am the kind of father who avoids making eye contact with other parents when I drop my daughter off at nursery school. The one who crouches under a classroom window to make sure she stops crying before I go to teach. I'm the father who elbows other parents and scramble for a front seat to take a video of Janda's preschool graduation ceremony. I'm the kind who wants to beat the crap out of the nurse sticking a needle in my daughter's arm. I am the kind who goes to Target to buy a toddler snacks and ends up with an inflatable kiddie pool in the shape of a white unicorn. After I tuck her in for the night, I Facebook pictures of us in that pool. Janda holding the pink mane, me petting giant pink wings, smiling. I am the father who tiptoes into my daughter's bedroom to check her breathing, whispers a prayer, then plants butterfly kisses on her forehead. I am the kind of father who gets on hands and knees, digs dirt with a trowel, plants flower bulbs, taps the soil to make sure they're firmly planted. Every afternoon, I take Janda out to the garden, and together we water the flowers, me telling her this is how you take care of life, how you care for love. I wrote this poem around the time a news break of immigrants and refugees being put in cage in the southern border, and it was around the time of Father's Day, and we were celebrating, but that story, that reality, kept on entering my psyche as we were celebrating Father's Day. Unhappy Father's Day. With her mother's hand guiding hers, Janda writes, I love Daddy Monster. I like skateboarding with you. And my favorite, you are an owl. But my joy is mixed with anguish, sadness, rage this Father's Day. Her gift brings up the horrors of those parents who are detained, who watch the children torn away from their trembling hands. Grown men and women weep. Some men hang themselves with belts from Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, because there's nothing else they could do. I too was just like them, My uncles, aunts, grandparents took what they could carry, me and my grandmother's back, and we left Cambodia to seek refuge in America. How was my family different from theirs? Legality is but a line drawn across the desert to keep out the inhuman. Tents are constructed and warehouses converted into holding cells. Parents and children are separated, placed in corral like cattle. A child with a Michael Jordan t-shirt that says, "Just do it," convulses as he watches his father dragged away by armed officers. A mother gets down on her knees, ties her daughter's shoes, not knowing if she will ever tie them again. As I hold Chanda, my smile crumbles. All I hear is the maddening, blinding roar of children crying, women weeping, grown men groaning. I've always been a poet that deals with personal sort of historical trauma, but it's always in the past, and it's connected to family and generation and growing up ethnic in America. But lately, all the stuff that I've been writing have to do with current events. So I don't know if they're good, but I think we all do that now. We all become political poets and writers because of what's going on. And becoming a parent is a political act itself. You have to be careful. You have to pay attention. Anyway, this is a poem that I wrote recently. It's a kind of a song that I sing about America. America, you were brave once, decent, almost pure, but never quite the myth you tell yourself. Is this the karma from centuries of bloodshed, lands pilfered, women raped, men murdered, lynching, assassination, race riots, class inequality? You name it, we have it. You want Coca-Cola, you want heroin, you want Coke, we love you long time. What's a little bit of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, legalized murders and colonialism in the name of democracy, which is just a fancy name for imposing our definitions on those with a different set of definitions. A war is a war, however you name it, just like a murder is a murder, however you spin it. Thus, anger screams for justice in the streets of Los Angeles, Chicago, and Minneapolis. The fire of unfulfilled dreams burning across your once great land. Meanwhile, the pandemic death toll reaches 100,000 and counting. I think it's 120,000 now. They say bodies pile as high as the flag, not enough plastic bags lying against walls of mobile mortuaries, not enough space in local cemeteries. There's talk of making burial grounds in local parks where children used to play. There's talk of reopening the economy, money valued over human life, business as usual, the old American way. Is America going mad or am I going crazy? I'm tired of reading the news these days. I'd rather take my daughter to the park, ride swings with our feet against the bright burning sun, go down slides and scream our hearts out, laugh like the little children we all are. I want to smoke ash with Allen Ginsberg, grocery shopping in search of Whitman, talk poetry, Buddhism, and God, all of which are the same thing, a celebration of the human Godhead, the human breath, the Atman in all of us. Love. Love ourselves. Take good care, America. I love you even when you spit at my Asian brothers and sisters, throw rocks at their cars, accuse them of carrying the Wuhan virus. When I speak, you don't hear. Some don't believe that I should be here, a place at the table where professors profess, poets sing, students evaluate. I have no wisdom here, only this. The birds soar high in the bright blue sky. Everything is blue, crystal clear. The air is clean. Those birds, man, they're singing their songs again. Oh, I love you all, in spite of it. I love you all. I just can't do otherwise. When you think about America, especially people like me, refugees and immigrants, whenever we criticize, there's always this response that keep coming back at us. Love it or leave it. I've been here for a long time, and my family's here. I love it, so I criticize it. So that was a book of poems that was published by Teresa Maychuk. Thank you for that, the publisher. These are two books from NYQ Books. And really, I just want to also take an opportunity to thank my editor, Raymond Hammond, who took a chance with me, really a nobody writer. And sent me an email, boom, boom, and then I got a contract. So I read a couple of books, a couple of poems from here, and then end it with the first book. As you can tell, my focus on parenthood has to do with being an orphan myself, not knowing my father. Here's a poem. This is a book of poems about my trip to Vietnam, and met my father's family for the first time, and tried to discover what he was like to them. But first, a poem about what it means to not have a father. And this poem was written right after I proposed to my fiance, my girlfriend, who's now my wife. Lies I told about father. I believe I have the power to revive you, sit you up in the family pigsty, drunk off your ass, smiling at nothingness, with the late morning light shining your face. With the sun's quiet adoration, I chisel you, a gangster from the east, a Khmer Grau, whose veins bled out Khmer characters, not Vietnamese, who, guided by fate, found himself in the West, and married my mother for her virtue and beauty. In my poems, you drink because, well, real men drink, curse and sleep around. The cursing and sleeping around you didn't do because of your love and respect for mother. You see, I was an aspiring writer then, renting a tiny studio on Ocean Boulevard in Long Beach, following in the drunken bouts of Charles Bukowski, buying cheap wine, imitating free verse, waking up to the sour stench of vomit and headache in the morning. Of course, this life did not last long. I couldn't hold liquor, let alone women. I've always been a reader, safe behind words, punctuations, sentences, between the pages where I can conquer an entire nation or seduce a woman with my long dash. Now I am engaged to a kind, generous woman. Mother would approve. I'm returning to you once again, not for your approval, just to talk, son to father. And then it dawns on me, I'm without you. So this is, I don't know if I could read this one, but I'll do my best. This is the final poem in the middle section, which is really the heart of the book. Journeying to find my father. My father walked up to the Khmer Rouge after they killed the children and opened their stomachs to eat the livers. My father got down on his knees, clapped hands overhead, and begged them for a sliver of a victim's liver, so that I would not starve. While everyone was sleeping, my father snuck into the kitchen, stole a branch of coconuts, and buried them in the woods. You're going to have to read it yourself. And so I was blessed. And this is my first book, Gruel. I'll just read one last poem. And this is more positive. Gruel. We were talking about survival when my uncle told me this. When you were young, we had nothing to eat. Your grandmother saved for you the thickest part of her rice gruel. Tasting that cloudy mixture of salt, water, and grain, you cried out, "This is better than beef curry." All my life I told myself I never knew suffering under the regime, only love. This is still true. That's it. Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
All right, thanks, BK. That was BK Tuan reading from Gruel, and So I Was Blessed, and his newest book, The Doctor Will Fix It. Our next poet up is Danielle Colin. She's a poet, performer, and a visual artist, and an educator living in Troy, New York. She recently painted a temporary mural in Troy of Angela Davis, which was beautiful. She has 2 poetry collections, Dreaming in Creole and Said the Swing to the Hoop. She's a Cave Canem Vona and New York State Writers Institute Fellow. She currently curates and hosts Poetic Vibe, which is a weekly poetry open mic at Troy Kitchen. Right now it's online. She was the first one to really get in there and get the Zoom open mics going, and it's easy to join, and that's a lot of great people, and it's fun to just listen. It's easy to share if you want to do that. Her website is dcolin.com. She teaches workshops for schools and organizations. She teaches a weekly creative writing workshop, probably not right now, though, at some point in Albany. Again, let's welcome to the stage Danielle Colin. I'm just going to move this out of the way. There we go. Okay.
Well, I'm thankful for being invited and being here. I have a set of poems. I'm going to try my best to do some light poems, but it's really hard in these times. The subjects of my poems are pretty heavy, so I'm going to try my best to have some kind of balance in the set. This first poem, I'm reading a lot of new poems, but I'll read from my collections as well. But this is a fairly new poem. It's called Magpie. I don't know how many generational demons I need to expel from my body. I just know my mind has had enough exposure to death while black. The kind found on postcards, rope round a neck, or the kind on a cell phone laying on the pavement. I am never confused about where the violence comes from, but I have a perpetual longing that makes chiffonade out of my spirit, tired of holding the same words in my mouth and expected to keep some kind of equanimity. Yesterday, I sprinkled red pepper flakes on the soil of my seedlings to guard them against the squirrels, render my plants atrocious to their senses. Last summer, their prurience from my kale left me with nothing but dirt. But what is there to protect my body or my loves or my children's or my father's? And yesterday, I wanted to rejoice with my recovering mother about her walk with my dad in their neighborhood, but all I could think about was a Black man jogging, his body smitten with bullets. It happens so often, this disregard for Black life. I'm almost convinced that to make it home, to sleep the whole night through, to play, to pray, to celebrate, to exist while Black has more to do with serendipity than my own God-given right to live. Racism is a ferocious beast that prowls incessantly, and I just want to know how to be redeemed from its claws. Nothing I would appreciate more than to know my body without its mark, to be infatuated with the beauty of my skin and describe it as safe at the same time. When I was growing up, we lived on a dead end. Sometimes I'd go stand there at the edge, look at the creek separating two ends of the same road. I never did try to run, to jump over. I just wondered why no one ever thought to build a bridge. Seems like some folks' intentions are to keep some things dead, so I've decided every day that I'm alive, my body will be draped in resilience, fist raised and knee bent, my mouth a magpie of words shouting at the world. In here. This is my book, Set the Swing to the Hoop. And I think I'm gonna do this poem for my mom. The girl dream, and the girl called into a room 3 boys and a girl, the only girl, and my grandpa asked what they wanted to be. And the girl, bright-eyed, chest out, back straight, clear voice said, lawyer. The girl made a riverbed and dirt road, fried plantain and pickles, coal fire and cast iron pots, said, lawyer. Not 2 weeks later, my grandpa pulled the girl out of school, sent her to learn how to sew and cook. The girl's supposed to be a boy's dream, not dream like one. Not supposed to be lawyer or bold or big or speak loud or speak. The girl skipped sewing class, used pocket change from Guntiso to buy fresco and watch people walk on Shademas without anyone knowing. The girl, a protest. The girl still dreaming in view of the presidential palace. The girl becomes a woman, becomes a wife, becomes my mother. My mother carries 3 girls and a boy, like the tethered, like a reckoning. I am the only child to survive the terrain of her womb, the only girl, the only dream left. My mother immigrant, my mother night school and wrestling Creole on her tongue, my mother lover of coconut flesh and peanut brittle, my mother loud, my mother sacrifice, my mother first lady of the church, my mother housekeeper for a living, my mother mathematician, making $1 out of angud, less than 15 cents. And one day, she taught me a lesson in a white woman's bathroom, pointed to the toilet she just cleaned, said this job, in particular and overall, is not for you. Said you could be a lawyer. Translation, be a lawyer. Translation, does not matter that you are a girl. Translation, I am her dream, carved out her stomach, from her cooked hands aged from fire and bleach, her back a wall crumbling, her kidneys passing stones, the weight of all her deprivation, a field of hives on her skin, a sting piercing back. New poem. It's so new, it has scribbles still on it. Okay. In another time, I swear I held a machete, hit dull metal against stone to make it sharp, and dared a fool would. And revolution coursed through my blood, a forgotten song. How else did my grandmothers pass, but in my body, the moan of our melanin, glory glistening like a wet seal just out of water. I'm sure my feet always knew how to run fast, and my back wears a story I'll never read. I am ancestral ground and a tongue that spits to stay alive. This black body be living memorial. I don't remember, but no need for flowers. I bloom already in the sun. Thank you. Yeah, y'all can make noise.
Okay.
I like noise. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I have a super political poem that's like calling to me, so I feel like, but I'm scared of the poem.
Now we gotta hear it.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Okay. I'm just gonna read it. Here we go. A friend of mine had a poetry challenge online called I Think They're Scared of Us. And so this was a prompt from that. Okay. I think they're scared of us. I think they're scared of us. Or maybe they're scared of the word black whenever it comes before the word power, or whenever it comes before the word beauty, or whenever it comes before the words lives matter, because they've never had a problem with the word power to exercise dominance over another, to render white supremacy woven through the fabric of this land. Power be a trip they never return from and wonder why we don't feel like we on vacation. They never had a problem with the word beauty, long as lily white, fair skin remained part of our colonial mentality. Decided that beauty standards could only adhere to white, and finally, let's give them a little of what they want so they could feel good too. I mean, so they could shut up about not being included in the spectrum of beauty. But to love ourselves in the glory of our blackness is a radical act because they never thought it possible, but we made it so. And let me tell you how they never had a problem with the word life. Hell, it's in the Declaration of Independence. Seems to me life has always mattered in America, just not for everyone. They said we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But what they really meant was, we hold these truths to be self-serving, that only some are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain dismissible rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Found those bootstraps they talk about so liberally. Don't even know what a bootstrap looks like, but I know when I see hurdles in the road. I know what the word nigger from a twisted mouth sounds like against my ear. I know when I see a black body fall to the ground. I know they scared of what I'll do when I see it, when I taste the strength of my own power, or when I gaze on all the beauty in my ancestral bones, or when my lips fix to say I matter. I think they scared like when Haiti defeated France and slaveholders didn't want the news to reach their own slaves lest they get inspired to coupe tête and boulekai right here in these United States too. They've been scared of the power of our minds, been teaching revisionist history 101, then get mad when we learn the truth. Ask me how does one pave the ocean floor? And I will point you to the sunken monuments of the Atlantic. Ask me how this country was founded, and I'll show you a black person's teeth in George Washington's mouth. I think they're scared of us learning the truth. I think they're scared of what we'll do with the truth, hold it against their artifacts and symbols until their comfort crumbles. Tell me, when a statue falls in the distance, will anyone hear it cry? Does it hold the same ache as a southern tree? Okay. think I'm gonna do Femme Haïtienne, Head of the Rising Sun. It's a compilation of the first 3 poems of my book, Dreaming in Creole. Seigneur parler, moi pour m'parler, tant qu'on et qu'on voit ou même, qui t'aime chercher, même gens qu'on pitié tout qui perdu. Qui seul guidem, guidem Seigneur, pour m'ka guider, pied monde qui prend mauvais chemin, bon manger pour capable nourrir. Moun qui grand goût acclame nous. I dream in a language that feels like home. The words come to mind when I can't find the right ones in English, this language I learned first. The dance, the cadence that sways with my tongue. Le moi parler Creole. When I speak Creole, I have the voice of Haiti in my throat, thirsting to tell stories that may never be translatable, but will always end with hope. And for that, they will always be worth telling. They cut the sun's head off in Cité Soleil, Haiti. Poverty bleeds internally there. She lives in the city of the sun. 5 children, husband dead, murdered for supporting Titi. They beat her, they stalk her, they be at her house. She beat them by hiding. She lives in the city of the sun, where she married again, married a man who raped her daughter, ripped her heart more. 6 children, new baby, no money. She lives in the city of the sun, where water floods her home. Wade in the water, her family waits in the water, in the city of the sun, where it seldom shines. So turn the sun on its pregnant belly over the horizon, birthing femme haïtienne, Haitian women, mountain women. Demon, Semon, behind the mountains are more mountains. Demon, Semon, like a million hills rolling before the sun. These women carry resistance in their sweat. They walk in worn shoes, calloused feet, dark skin glistens in the noon sun, veins map their hands, river water pumps through Haiti's dried land as their stomachs empty, sagging breasts like eroded hillsides. The women carry water on their heads, water in their wombs, water off their floors. They are potomitan, center pillars holding a collapsed house while the sun breaks dawn like coconuts cracked open with machetes. These women, Bateneb, beat back the dark, turn the sun on its pregnant belly over the horizon, birthing a new day. Laugh the women, we are still here, and we run the book. Neighborhood watchers beat water out clothes on rocks, write secret messages in the money, be at water when the sun goes into labor, and you will see her. Ana Kaiona, Ana Kaiona, golden flower hangs in the sky, Taino chief, thief, hangs for trying to negotiate peace with Columbus. These women rest in her story. Burning souls rest in her blazing sun. They cut the sun's head off in Cité Soleil, Haiti. These women birth a new one every day. Mountain women, militant mountains. Demon, Semon, behind the mountains are more mountains. Demon, Semon, like a million hills rolling before the sun. These women carry Haiti in their sweats. Okay. That felt good. I have a couple more poems. I just have to find which paper it's written on or typed on. Nope, that's the one I just read. It would help if they were in order of in some kind of logical order. Okay. 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 I'm just listening to my spirit. I talk to myself on stage in my head. All right, so I'm going to do, this poem is called For Every Black Woman Who Has Been Called Angry, and then I'm going to do one short poem to end my set. I've been trying not to be an angry Black woman. Make sure I smile a little in public. Seems like the understanding is that our facial expressions do not lend to other emotions, that the fear is we stay ready to start a commotion just because. Like there are no reasons to be Black, a woman, and angry at the same time. So don't you know, on most days I turn my smile into a protest, but the rest is a crooked upwards battle. I've been trying to rise like Maya's dust every time there's some bitter, twisted lies. Been trying to be Black girl magic without a spell to conjure over this hurt, this pain, this rolled up thunder pressed between my ears. I've been trying to sew invisibility cloaks to drape around my children for protection, only to find out they invisible already without protection. Been trying to tell my daughters to not be angry, that sass might get you sassed, that kissing the pavement ain't better than going home. They will say you had too much attitude. Refuse to see your smile pressing through from behind your teeth. The world on your shoulders like the mule you are. They will wonder how you made it anyhow. How somehow they haven't killed you yet, being angry and all. But ain't that the point? That Harriet Tubman had to be an angry Black woman, that Sojourner Truth had to be an angry Black woman, that Assata Shakur had to be an angry Black woman, that Rosa Parks had to be an angry Black woman, that Shirley Chisholm had to be an angry Black woman, that Fannie Lou Hamer had to be an angry Black woman, that Ada B. Wells had to be an angry Black woman, that Coretta Scott King had to be an angry Black woman, that Betty Shabazz had to be an angry Black woman, and ain't that the point? That I have every right to be angry. Angry about our trees cut down and the roots left there naked in the sun. About history being his story one too many times. About the corrections to my language when my tongue was already cut out. About gentrification, discrimination. About appropriation of my culture. About bullets spraying like a carnival game on victims with no weapons. About being called everything but my name. Mammy, Jezebel, Ratchet, bitch. About the prison industrial complex, about this reflection someone put in a mirror that ain't my own. I have every right to break the glass. This anger ain't yours to police, ain't yours to cage up like a bird, ain't yours is the point. I've been trying not to be an angry Black woman. Truth is, I ain't trying no more. And you gonna be glad one day. I said, you're going to be glad one day I was angry enough to change the world. And last, I'm going to end on some hope. That was hope, actually. Yes. But this is a short poem that's on the windows of the Art Center in Troy. So if anybody wants to go and see the poem, it's there on the windows. For the days ahead, I left this poem open just for us to climb into when we've lost our keys, to let the air in when we've lost our breath, and the light when we've forgotten the sun, to serve as a mirror and see our own reflections holding each other up. On days when hope dwindles, know this window is here to remind us it's not all gone, that it never went away, even if we had to press ourselves against the glass to find out the hope we're waiting on is us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Danielle. You can find her more about her work at dcolin.com.
And our next poet up is Joe Bruchac, who is a storyteller and poet whose work often reflects the Abenaki Indian ancestry and his lifelong interest in American Indian history and culture. He writes all kinds of work. He does fiction, young adult work. There he is. Oh, Danielle's book is still there. I was recently reading a book on, it's called Social Poetics, so a history of the poetry workshop internationally. And what did I find there but Joe Bruchac's work with prisoners that he did years ago, mentioned as like an important anthology that came out, an interview of Joe's. So I have a lot of respect for Joe's work and his prolific writing discipline. I think he's got upwards of maybe just under about 9,000 books published at this time. You can find out more about him at josephbruchac.com. I'm going to hand over the stage to Joe Bruchac.
Before I destroy it, okay? Thank you. Kwai nito ba Luis Soza para no kedahozid. My name is Joseph, for the peaceful, and I always like to begin with our old language, which was spoken here before we heard this thing called English. I play my flute, I play my flute. For those who breathe and cannot breathe. For those who leave who cannot leave. I play my flute, I play my flute. For the eagle's wings that spread across the sun. For that job of freedom that has not yet been done. I play my flute shares its breath. Travel trivia says the answer to why France sold Louisiana to the United States was as an act of friendship. And I find myself shouting at the screen about there yet being another lie given to us, hiding the truth that when France's navies broke their backs on the shores of Haiti, were freed slaves who were the first to free themselves from the nightmare we have named America. And Toussaint Louverture was the father of more than one country. That truth has not yet been forgotten. I had to scribble that while you were writing. Because I was, before you even started it, my mind was going, Demo, Semo, Demo. When I was in Haiti, I learned that many, many years ago. Beyond the mountain, there is indeed another mountain. A planter's prayer. The Turkish poet Nazim Hikmet wrote about an old man who planted trees, knowing that he might not live long enough to ever taste their fruit. Perhaps I was not old enough when I first read those words of his to understand that sort of harvest was also about the poems he wrote. Hikmet, who spent most of his adult life either in prison or exile. But now I pray, much as he did, that what I planted might yet grow beyond my breath and provide good for those whose voices I will never hear. There's a new anthology coming out in September from Bridge Press. It's called No Voice Too Small, 14 Young Americans Making History. And a number of us who are poets were asked to write poems for each of these young people. And I wrote one for Jocelyn Charger, who was one of the young Lakota women who stood up to try to protect the waters of the Missouri River from the pipeline, that black snake that is threatening to destroy the life of that part of this continent, this Turtle Island. So this is a poem for Jocelyn Charger. We need the river more than it needs us. We saw it was time for us to stand against the black snake that would poison our earth and destroy our water like that snake of despair that led too many of our sisters and brothers to give up on this life. Ever since the first Europeans came up Minnesota swirling waters, our elders have tried again and again to teach them to respect its blessings. Now is our time. Our new generation will not give up this sacred struggle. It is for our lives, for all our relations. Old man said a long time ago, there were other beings on this earth. Their voices were as loud as thunder, their feet heavy, shaking the ground. Sky watched them as they fought each other. But then those beings got too proud. They thought they were greater than Creator. So it happened that they were no more, all of them wiped from this land like sand from an old woman's hand. Today, smart people find their bones. They make up stories of how they died. But in the spring, when first thunder sounds, our people remember the loud ancient voices of the giant ones who ruled back then. They tell their story, this story, and then they ask, do we know who is watching now, hearing voices loud as thunder, seeing just how heavy feet have now become upon this land? What the eagle says to us. What does the eagle say to us, wings spreading to embrace the dawn? It says a new day will begin, time to give thanks, continue on. What does the eagle say to us? Is flight part of the morning wind? Across our land's open face, share breath, it says, begin again. What does the eagle say to us when all we have is scars on scars and no one sometimes seems to care? The sky remains despite our fears. Sometimes we feel we are too small. There is no way we can go on. Then from above we hear its cry. Eagle says, we're not alone. I'm mostly reading new poems tonight, so if they're a little raw, so it goes. My grandfather was Abenaki Indian and was always very close to the earth. And he had such brown skin that they used to say that Jesse Bowen is black as an Abenaki. When we went down south, he always had to use the colored restrooms. He didn't go down south very often. His skin was the color of the soil. My grandfather's hoe. The handle was one that he made himself, a strong maple sapling cut and shaped to replace the weaker store-bought one that broke after only 4 springs of use. The head had been shaped by a local smith, iron pounded and bent into the shape that sharpened was the woe of any weed. When I first tried to use that hoe, it was too heavy for my 5-year-old hands, though Grandpa praised the effort I made before lifting it from blistered palms, saying, I'll finish off these here rows. Where did it go, that beloved hoe Grandpa relied upon for more springs than I could even imagine back then? A year ago, while digging up soil where I still plant corns, bean, and squash, the 3 sweet sisters that sustain us, I found a piece of rusted iron. It still held some of the well-used shape of the tool it had once been. I did not try to salvage it or hang it up upon the wall as some sort of souvenir. Instead, with a spade, I buried it deeper, knowing its presence, remembered or forgotten, held in the earth my grandfather loved, was more than enough of a blessing. Miqualdam in the Benaki language later means remembering. Miqualdam, I remember. Miqualdam. My palm is filled with the dust that sprinkled from great mysteries' hands onto the moist glacial sand, shaping itself the first human body, torso, shoulders, arms, hands, fingers, a neck and head, blind, deaf still. Waiting for dry lightning's arrow to pierce flesh and skull deeper than sun dancer's eagle bone all, making 7 sacred openings, eyes, ears, nostrils, and a single mouth. Thunder, thunder, open my mouth. To chant against their guns, to lament our slaughtered four-legged ones, our stolen waters, to pull out the dark poisons forced into the veins of this land that still loves us for so long. We have lain beneath the treads of trucks and tanks. We have tasted our own blood. We have swallowed hot metal, smelled the sickness released from our sacrificial forests. But now, the holder of heaven grants us the use of our limbs again so that we may march together, survivors chanting, Miqualdam, Miqualdam, we remember. I was fortunate enough to live in West Africa for 3 years and teach in a Ghanaian school, and made many lifelong friends in Ghana and Nigeria, and people like Chinua Achebe, who was my advisor for my doctoral thesis, and my dear friend Kofi Owunar. I had the honor of publishing 3 of his books of poetry, including one that we smuggled out of the prison where he was being held as a captive of his regime at the time. And Kofi died just a few years ago in Kenya. There was a African writers conference, and his son had gone to a mall in Nairobi, and word came that there was an attack on the mall by Boko Haram, and Kofi rushed to the mall to try to save his son. His son survived. Kofi was killed. And Kita, Ghana, is the city that Kofi was from, the city where I was fortunate enough to live. And it's a place where the slave trade and the copra trade and the gold trade passed through. People forget those things. I think they can't be forgotten. The wind in Kita, in memory of Kofi Owunar. When the wind changed those years when we lived at the head of the sand beside the lagoon, we could smell the smoke from its northern side, where farmers lit fires to burn dry grass before planting their fields. If it changed again, wind brought to our ears the thud of the surf on the long golden sands, the clang of the 2-throated bells the small boys played to mark the rhythm for fishermen's feet as they pulled in their long blue nets, filled with the silver throb of mackerel. But on some calm nights, we heard in the wind the far-off howling of the dogs in Analoga, far down the peninsula, its arm thrust into the Gulf of Guinea. From one village to the next, that echoing chorus came closer and closer until it reached us in Julukofa, then passed on toward Togo. They sense the ghosts, Kofi said to me. Ghosts still walking that long road where lives were traded for copra and gold, their restless feet waking from sleep, not just dogs, but those who remember. Pazok Linton Wangan, one song. I take 3 steps into the lawn, edging our land deep summer green. Dew hangs heavy here before sun comes back over those eastern hills that seem to mark like boundaries of land and blood, New York here and Vermont there. A line of song, though, was strung between all of our people when only the soil measured our steps. Lines of maps and broken words were not blurring the link of breath to earth. But something touches my cheek, invisible, until the light catches its length, a spider thread dropped down from leaves, not yet a web, but strong enough to hold, give vision back. Tracks not left behind. I mentioned two people in this. One is Wawa Nolet, who was a leader of the Abenaki resistance in the 1700s and who vanished and never was seen again. He was said to be over 100 years old, and our stories say that his spirit is still walking those hills in resistance. Another was Captain Sabale. Sabale was an Abenaki man. A little town of Sabale in the Adirondacks was named after him. No one could ever follow his trail. He would disappear into the forest, and no one knew where he went. He'd come back with lead he had mined from his own lead mine. And he also lived over 100 years and then vanished and was never seen again. I think of those two men as my elders. Tracks not left behind for our sons. I've done the best I can to find my way by following tracks not left behind. As I have tried to keep my feet on paths beyond this narrow frame of vision held by my eyes. I remember the way of old Wawa Nolet, the one whose trail was never found by those Bostoniac who hunted him when bounties were paid for Abenaki scalps. And Captain Sabale, who just disappeared after more than 100 years of knowing the land around Indian Lake as well as the lines of his hand. No stones mark either man's place of rest, yet part of me believes they're held close in the memory of our land. And so each day I ask myself, when my own time of departure comes, what will I leave behind? I wanted to change the tempo a little bit and share with you something I've been working on the last, well, actually 3 months. I told myself every day I'm going to write a haiku, one a day. So I'm just going to read you a sequence of them, just some of this that are in a line, and you can see what I'm doing. Caterpillar crawls across the back of my hand, imagining wings. Spade slides in easy, lifts brown earth rich with compost, tasting tomatoes. Clouds over the pond, reflecting in the still water, dragonflies buzzing. Hawk circling around, calling again and again, finding there its mate. Half moon over pines, branches whisper in the wind, owl calls from far off. Painted turtle digs her nest deep into the lawn, back again this year. Clouds cross the full moon, wind blows through the hemlock trees, the pond remains still. Black and yellow wings around the lilac bushes, tiger swallowtails. Dragonfly hovers, lands on top of my ball cap, part of my shadow. Atop the dead birch, a sudden burst of red flame, cardinal singing. Stones glowing white hot, pitchfork digging into the pile. Sweat lodge is ready. Pale leaf floats down from the top of the chestnut, yellow butterfly. I'm just going to do one final poem. And I think it's important for us to remember, difficult as things are, the natural world is still out there. It is going on without us or with us. We can be with it or we can be without it. It is our decision, for we also carry it within us, as everyone should remember. So this is my last poem for tonight. I like to snowshoe, and you can snowshoe across Lake Champlain when it's frozen. But there are times when it's not quite frozen enough. And this is one of those times. Walking across ice to Valcour Island. Paton Bagak or Paton Bauk, the waters between, is the name we have for Lake Champlain. Paton Bauk, the waters between, is breathing underneath this skin of white, no thicker than the space from one frost to the next. The rumble of an army bomber throbs overhead practicing war. It passes quickly as all human sounds, while the lake's thrum continues. I walk on bare paws, splayed like the feathered feet of grouse, following the hieroglyphic prints of deer and coyote in new snow. I walk, and as I walk, I listen to the drumbeat that began far away, growing closer and closer, the horizon beneath my feet widening into the sky as a crack opens, moving toward me like a strike of lightning caught in slow motion, spreading the ice between my feet, and one last heartbeat before I fall in, closing the gap again. The ice subsides as I stand still on the chest of this great being, ignoring my passage, simply waiting for a stronger sun to open its lungs. As I wait for strength to return to my limbs, Baton Bao grumbles and hums beneath me, a song older than human certainty, deeper than all our memories, stronger than our brief presence on earth and water. Leonini Dombak, thank you for listening to me, and may you all be safe.
All right, we're out of poets, we're out of mics, we're done for the evening. Thank you, Danielle Colin, BK Tuan, Joseph Bruchac. We're here again August 5th. We'll be back with some more poets for the stay-home session. There's a tip jar on the screen. If you want to, it's a couple of clicks. You can leave a tip. The donations are split between the cafe and our 3 poets here. So if you want to do that, we all appreciate it. Okay, Joe's gonna donate his donation back. So thank you all for listening in. And I may be off the air already. Joe might have cut me out, but if not, I'm gonna say goodnight. See you in August. Stay safe.